I'll be talking about Para and the various infrastructure that we make available for folks building really awesome agentic payments use cases. We build wallet infrastructure for really any company that wants to take advantage of everything that blockchains have to offer. And so we make that easy by abstracting away a lot of the complexity of interacting specifically with wallets and authentication. How this ties into agentic commerce specifically is we have built out the system in a way that's really modular, such that you can effectively wrap our clients with X402 or MPP compatible forwarders or providers. And so now I'll talk a little bit about some of the ways that we solve the biggest problems in agentic payments, which both James and Jeff did a great job of teeing up. So there's basically three problems with agentic commerce today. First, it's really difficult to use wallets. Second, a lot of times because agents need to access funds, you'll have private keys in plain text. And then third, once you've set your agent off, oftentimes there are no guardrails. So we've built a few different products that address this in different ways. The first was our first product, which is the modal designer for the paramodal. And here I'm just going through an interactive site that we have that makes it really easy to kind of configure and manage different authentication methods. But what I'll do here is just show us really quickly what it takes to create a wallet with Para. I'm going to enter my email address. I'll verify it. Great. And then now we will very shortly have a wallet. So we can do all kinds of things with this. We can top it up. We can add funds. We have an address. And so now this process that used to involve getting a private key is now just as simple as logging into a website. But for agents, this can look a little bit different. And so we've also built all of this out via API as well. And the REST API just creates a really easy way to avoid having to either manage private keys or manage giving your agent access to, let's say, your OAuth or your email credentials to be able to access an authenticated wallet. And so the REST API has a couple of really nice features that also make it more secure to provision your agent. We allow you to set different whitelists. So you can set an allow list around specific IPs. Let's say you have an OpenClaw agent running it on a Mac Mini. You can only allow list just that specific IP. And that really just limits kind of compromise risks or failure modes. And so I'll just show a really quick demo of creating and signing with these wallets. So I'm going to start with making a new wallet. I have preloaded an API key, which I got from the Para developer portal. These are one-time keys. And for anybody who is to keep a close eye on the specific API key, worry not, it will be deprecated at the end of this demo. But what I'll do here is I will basically select what kind of wallet I want. So we have a few different options here. I'm going to set basically, let's just do something fun for right now. We support any of these identifiers. And the reason for that is that a user can later on turn this API wallet into an authenticated wallet. And there's a pretty seamless process for doing that. But we'll just go ahead and select this, and then we will go off to the races. So we now see that we have a wallet created. So this is our wallet ID, which will be valuable later, but we also now have an address. And so we can give our agents the capability to transact directly from one of these wallets via API key. So I'll just show that really quickly. Because this is not yet a funded wallet, we're going to go ahead and just sign a message. So once again, we have our same API key, and then we're going to go ahead and include our wallet ID from earlier. We'll now have a message. So hello, day 0. And then we'll go ahead and sign. And then we're going to now see that we have a signature here that is a valid signature from that address that we just created. And so you can now use this with any of the major blockchains that you saw in that drop down earlier. So this is Solana, Stellar, EVM, Cosmos. And then we also have this sign raw capability. And so it's pretty extensible in terms of wanting to sign just about any different type of transaction. And yeah, so now we've somewhat gotten past this problem of having a private key in plain text. So the third problem that we see is guardrails. Just the other day, we heard about a case where someone had provisioned a trading bot. That trading bot had accumulated 7 or 8 figures in USD value. And then after very successfully making a bunch of these trades, transferred that entire sum over to an unknown address. So we can see here that agents can sometimes go off the rails. So what we've provisioned or what we've created is, this is a fairly new feature within Para, is our permissions feature. And building on top of what Jeff had shared earlier, permissions are a way to create almost an app-wide or a project-wide restriction or request for users on the types of different capabilities that an agent can have. So first, I'll just quickly go back here and show the developer portal. We have our user that's been created here just now. But permissions are basically structured as an overarching policy. A policy will have a list of scopes. The scopes are going to be very similar to what with OAuth. If you sign into something like Calendly, maybe there's a set of permissions that are requested. This is the human readable permission request. Underneath that, we have a variety of different kind of sub capabilities that you can configure. And this is really just to allow full expressivity around what kinds of actions are going to be allowed or not allowed. We even also have support for things like lists of conditions, all of which would need to evaluate to true for a transaction to go through. And then for agents specifically, we have 2 different capabilities. So the first is that you can have a user automatically bypass a permission and approve a specific transaction that's outside of the policy. For agents, you can just set these as guardrails. And so you can allow an agent to transact autonomously, but only within this policy that's been created. So I'm just going to very quickly walk through our permissions builder and how we go about this. So I'll sign up as Acme. We're going to select a couple of chains, and then we'll go through and create some scopes. So the first scope we're going to do is transfers. So this is allow token transfers, and this is what the user will see. And then you can have them required or not. And then underneath this, we're just going to allow transfers on Ethereum and Polygon, which are the 2 chains that we selected earlier. And then we can also even add a condition here. So you can say the transaction amount is less than 1. And so that's an example. And then we can even add an additional scope to this. So this scope can be signing. And so we'll say here, allow signing messages. And then we'll add a permission underneath this to allow signs. So now we'll go ahead, we'll review our scopes, and we now have a full policy that we can set across all of the different wallets that are created within our project. And so this is just yet another way to enforce at the actual MPC or cryptography layer what types of actions are allowed and not allowed. So yeah, that's in a nutshell some of the tools that we've built for agentic workflows, and hopefully you've seen some of them in action already with the SBC demo just now. Thanks, everyone.